I want to welcome everybody. We take our seats and we're going to start. I want to welcome everybody for coming, and I know our family appreciates it, and I certainly do. So we're going to start out with a few songs of praise that we'll have the words up. If you don't know them, you can sing along with us and get up in the spirit. It's a time when we trust God to move in our midst.
Enter into the Spirit, worship the God of the living. Forgive me if I don't make it through. If that same Spirit that raised Christ from the dead dwell in you, if that same Spirit that raised Christ from the dead dwell in you, it shall quicken your mortal body. If that same Spirit dwell in you, it shall quicken your mortal body. If that same Spirit dwell in you. I walk in the heavenlies with Jesus. All earthly cares left behind. I'm seated at the right hand of the Master. All authority and power is mine. So set your affections on things from above, with Christ at the right hand of God. For ye are dead, and your new life is hid in Christ at the right hand of God. By the power of my life, break the power of my death. Father God, I lift my cry unto thee. Bring forth this vessel still as thy glory and thy will. Go through my heart and mind and set me free. Give ear, O ye hands, and give ear, O ye earth. Listen, ye gates of hell, and all beneath. Open thy place, and O grave thy destruction. O death and grave, I am thy victory. So whether there be mountains nor valleys in between, whether there be perils o'er the soul, I know that my Redeemer lives, and in my flesh I'll see God, the Lion of the Lamb of God forevermore. My desire is that glorified. When he shall appear, we shall appear with him in glory. We'll be glorified. We'll be glorified. When he shall appear, we shall appear with him in glory. Amen. You may be seated.
Well, these are supposed to be happy occasions because they're graduation. But it's sad for the ones that remain. Okay. I didn't want to eat this thing. Like ice cream cone. But, Sherry started out in this life on April 23rd, 1947. And she was named Cheryl Renee Wilson. Her parents were Melvin and Margaret Wilson. She grew up, her whole life right around this area. And she had an older sister, Lorraine, and an older brother, Sonny, and a younger brother, Jim. And so we've all, been in this area our whole life. We never moved away or anything. And so she went to Frazee High School, graduated as an honor student. It's probably the hardest thing I've ever done, is doing this. But in 1965, we got married on September 25th of 1965. And so we were 4 months into our 54th year marriage. And it's been a tough 14 years because what she went through. She couldn't even communicate or talk or anything about the last 8, 9 years. And so, but after that, of course, we had 5 children. We had Gidget, Gina, Garth, and Ginger, and Janae. And now we have 15 grandchildren. The last one we dedicated yesterday, and Garth and Eileen's, and right there. And so, family is still growing and still producing. So, and we thank the Lord for that, and the fact that the rest of us have been in good health and done well, and have pretty happy lives together. So we rejoice in that. Along about 1970, I call it this way, we came into a working relationship with God. Completely changed our lives. And so we entered into a deeper commitment with God. And it's actually, the kingdom of God is a marriage. And so we entered into a marriage with other believers who were hearing the same thing. And so it changed our lives completely. And one of the first things we did, we had to pull the children out of public school. And back then you could get hauled in for truancy. They weren't all the homeschoolers like they are today. And so I remember we were living actually right next door to here, and we were moving out to a property, in a different school district. And so they kind of lost us in the shuffle. We moved during the summer, and they were about ready to, question. We heard rumors that they were going to be checking us out with our children, and that means we pulled them out of public school. And so we moved and got into another new school district, and so we were kind of hidden during that time. And of course, we never signed up for that, and we were, taught our own children. And Sherry did all the teaching. I think we had a student in every grade from 1 to 12. So she had about 45 subjects to stay ahead of. And so that was her first year teaching. And she did that for 18 years. So, And then, about, I guess it was back about 1981, we started moving in ministry and traveling and all that, so we did that together. She was a wonderful helpmate. You know, Revelation 19 says that the testimony of Jesus Christ is a spirit of prophecy. And I can't hardly remember a meeting where she didn't prophesy. And she moved in the gifts of the Spirit, word of wisdom, word of knowledge, and discernment, all those things. She was wonderful in that. And when we travel, she'd be looking up. I'd ask her to look up different things in the Bible and Strong's Concordance, get the meanings of words that you needed to know. We need to know what we're talking about. You know, if you're going to minister to somebody else, it has to be based solely on the Word of God, because it's the Word that actually accomplishes things in our life. And so you have to know what the Word says. You have to know what it means to be able to explain it, you know, in the right way. And so we were blessed to, you know, we came into this working relationship with God together. And so we were never separated in that. We were one in it. So that was always a blessing. And so she got a couple songs from the Lord that she wrote back in the early 70s when she was singing with the Sunshine Singers, and some of them are here today. They got a lot of songs. Most of them they got from the Lord themselves. They wrote that they sang, and they used to go to the different churches and places around and minister to people during that time. And so we're going to play a couple of those songs that she got, and one of them where she's expressing really her it's her testimony. Listen to that. This is an old tape, so we tried to get it. It's maybe not the best recording, but I think you can hear it.
This next song I wrote, I think, about 20 years ago. I was crying out to the Lord, and He started showing me what it really meant when He died on the cross and how it affected my life. And the fact that He died there, but that everything that He went through was for a purpose for me and His plan and purpose. And that what He endured, I might walk in to glorify His name. And so we'd like to sing that song. It's called Dear Jesus. Listen to the words, and we just pray that it'll mean a little of what it's meant as God spoke it to us. As I think of how much you love me, my heart could burst. I can picture you hanging on the cross, your blood dripping to the ground, and yet you've allowed me to see, as you were mocked and spit upon the way you were, you showed me how I should live in a world they use your name as a curse word. If you hadn't carried your cross, I couldn't be taught to take up the cross daily. As you received that crown of thorns, you showed me that my mind now belongs to you, and my thoughts are to be stayed on thee. If your hands weren't nail-pierced, I would not know that whatever I put my hands to should glorify you. When the soldier pierced your side and blood and water came out, you revealed that I need to be covered by your blood and cleansed by the washing of the water of your word. Your blessed feet were pierced that you might show me how I should walk, being led by your Spirit, walking in your ways. Dear Jesus, most of all, I can picture your eyes so filled with love for me, because you knew my need. For if you had not died, I could not live. Then 3 days later, you resurrected, that I may live a resurrection life in you. Thank you, Jesus, for caring so much for me. Greater love has never been shown. After all you've given me, help me, Lord, to give myself to thee. Dear Jesus, oh, how very much I love you. Jesus, I want to express just how I feel because of your great love for me. My love I cannot conceal. Jesus, I thank you for everything I owe, and your bondservant I'll always be. I'll never walk alone, and your bondservant I'll always be. I'll never walk alone. Thank you, Lord.
Next song we're going to sing is Jesus is Reality. And when you're talking about the power that we just sang about, you can't compare a thing to what his power is. You can't compare anything to what Jesus is. Jesus is reality. There isn't any other kind of reality here.
That's right.
There's no other thing but Jesus. He's reality.
Cheryl also wrote this song. I want to do what he wants me to do. I want to be where he wants me to be. I want to live as he did. I have Jesus. He's my reality. Have you wondered what you should do? Or asked, Lord, where should I be? Is the life that you're living now free? Are you searching for reality? Jesus is reality. I want to do what he wants me to do. I want to be where he wants me to be. I want to live as he did. I have Jesus. He's my reality. As Jesus is real to you, you will do what he wants you to do.
Early on, this is, the early 70s, where, of course, she understood that the only way you can get to God is through Jesus Christ. It's the only way. He's the only mediator between God and man. That, all these other aspects of, a lot of people think there's a lot of paths to God. Well, there's only one, and it's through Jesus Christ. And so he is the most important one, because he comes, the greatest mystery in the whole Word of God is what Paul wrote in Colossians 1:27 when he said, "It's Christ in you that is your hope and glory." And so it's not only what Jesus did for us by laying his life down, but now he said it's expedient that I go away, that I can send the Comforter and the power. It says in the Gospel of John, chapter 1, it says that once you receive him, he gives you the power to become the Son of God. And so he's the one that sets this all up and makes it possible for us because of the price he paid. And now you can have him inside of you by accepting him, as your Lord and Savior. And then you can receive the power to become a son of God. So it's a process of working out your salvation. Like it says in Philippians 2:12, we need to have a fear of God, because we're to work out our own salvation now with fear and trembling, and by letting God work in you both to will and to do his good pleasure. And so this is the process, and the end of our salvation is the salvation of our soul. Our spirit's been quickened, and now we're working out the rest of our salvation. So Sherry had that thought in her mind when she wrote that song, expressing that. That's her own confession of faith. So because of that, we can have the hope that she's in the right place. And I know that if she was here, she would express that forever. Because this life goes fast. It's temporal. And the Bible says, in Ecclesiastes, it talks about an untimely birth. It says we all come into this world in darkness. We don't know anything. But if we leave the same way, then our whole time here was wasted. And it's called an untimely birth. And your name will remain in darkness. So while we're here on this earth, at the time, whatever time we're given, you want to make use of it. You want to focus. Because you don't know when it's over. So I'm glad she made the decision when she did. So I have about 5 other ministry here that I flow with, and they keep me check and balance if I get off the wall. So, Brother Gary Snow here he's from Arkansas, and we just did some meetings together over the weekend. So he's going to share some things. I'd like to give everybody an opportunity to share, but that's not going to work out. So we're going to have a few, and the family needs to share something. And so this time, Brother Gary, you take your liberty.
Yeah, we're thrilled to be here. With that, I almost give an altar call and come up and I'll get born again. That was like right to the heart, I thought. And that was Sherry. And I think on behalf of all the ministry, I know that all the traveling ministry that couldn't be here at this time, they all send their love to the family and greetings to everyone. And they loved Sherry with a passion. We all did. And because of what you just heard, I mean, she was just straight shooter, wide open. I remember when we met, I don't know if it was Bones Mill or Lubbock, but I was talking to Janae and Ginger. We had the Gundersons were all in a line, and the Snows were in a line behind them. And they had 5 children. We had 7. We had outnumbered a little bit, but just to be there, and our kids had interaction with one another, and of course, we really fell in love with Glenn and Sherry, and I remember Milton Verady. He said, now, that Detroit Lakes group, those guys, they're really flowing together, that Glenn and Sherry up there. And so we loved her always. Whenever we met, she was just an open book, and as Glenn has already mentioned, she was so committed to God that there were just the flow of the Spirit through her, and everybody that I know that was around her were always blessed. They said that what a teaching ministry that she had. There was an impartation that went for the heart and broke down the Word of God where you could understand it. And in that song, I need a copy of that. I didn't think I'd be crying here today, but boy, when that thing came on, it just pierced you right to the heart. And so she was, I would call pretty sober most of the time. I mean, I don't mean it in the wrong way. We got some California folks here that, because for a number of years, Glenn and Sherry came to the California convention, and I remember one time when we were there and had a pretty good praise service going, and usually we're hand clapping. Brother Joe McCord was there. I know would have loved to have been here. He did his little bunny hop, that he had going, and I remember we were singing a song about being in the river that will never run dry or something. And I looked over and I couldn't believe it. Sherry was going like this. And I thought, I'd never seen her do that. I started laughing. I went over and gave her a hug and I looked at her and she said, these are waters to swim in. And so it was quite an exciting time that we had over the years together. And I know, just to echo Glenn, a little bit, that if she could be here present, I know what her heart would be. If she could address us, would be, get your heart right. Don't hold any anger, bitterness, strife, envy, division. It's not worth holding on to for the better joy of the living God in our heart. And so for anybody here today, just surrender. I know that's what she would say. Surrender your heart and your life, because we only do have just a little while that we're here. And we need to be sowing to the Spirit, because that's how we reap everlasting life. And so, I'm not going to be long. I told people it was the devil's job to wear out the saints, not the preachers. And but I did want to read one verse that's been going over in my heart as I've thought about Sherry. That the last book in the Bible, 3 John, most people think it's Revelation, but it's 3 John in verse 5. Beloved, you do faithfully whatsoever you do to the brethren and to strangers. That's a call to do good to everyone, to lay our life down and be that example. And it's talking about a man in the church, and it says that they have borne witness of his charity that he demonstrated before the church. And I think we could say that about her this morning, that she lived a laid down life. 18 years teaching in school, let me tell you, there's a lot of homework. And this is the last line, and if you could take this with you wherever you go. Whomever you bring forward on their journey after a godly sort, you shall do well. And I think that's would be something she would want to leave in all of our hearts today is find someone and help them, bring them forward on their journey after a godly sort. And your testimony could be, and you do well. And you can say, it is well with me and my soul. And I have to say, I believe that about Sherry, that it's well with her and in her soul, as she poured out her life. And so, Glenn, we honor you as well for being an example of a husband who did exactly what Christ did, laid down his life for his wife, for his bride. And we honor you in that. We appreciate you. And we love the family. Beautiful, you had a beautiful mom. And where all the ministry love your family and the body here tremendously. So you're deep in all of our hearts. And so God bless you.
This is Sister Virginia, and she's from the California body out there. And anyway, she's kind of representing that. Three of them came from California.
Brother Glenn, I am so honored, the privilege to be right here on this very hot day. Thank you so much for asking me this morning as I walked in. Thank you to all the G family. I have a J family. I met Sister Cheryl and Brother Glenn in about 1991, 92, somewhere around there when I came into this flow of the Spirit. And we were flowing in a place called Lake Elsinore with the Hilliers. Some of you might know them, Ryan Billy Hillier. And about 2 years into that, that group broke up. And we were pretty young. I had been going to Calvary Chapel prior to that for a few years, but in this flow of the Spirit, we were very young. And to show you God's faithfulness, as we met Brother Glenn and Sister Sherry up in one of our first conventions in Julian, California, they had a heart for us. And they followed us over to West Covina, California, and they came about 3 or 4 times a year. And Sister Sherry became my mother in the Lord. I had a wonderful mom growing up, a good mom, I should say. But my mom, she had a heavy hand. And when the Lord gave me Sister Sherry as a mother, she had a soft hand and a loving heart. But more than that, she had the love of the Lord in her. And he used her as an instrument in my life to show me what true love was. And for that, I'll be eternally grateful. Every time she see me, every time she loved me, she would say, love you, and she meant it. It was in her eyes and in her heart. It was glowing all over her. And I know she loved every single one of us there, you know. Last night I was reading in Matthew, and it was talking about, you know, if you leave your brother, your sister, your children for me, I will bless you 100-fold. And in Matthew 10, it said, and I will bring forth as children and family, mothers, and 100-fold. I read that, and for the first time, it was brand new to me again, and I was just like, wow, that's so true. And that was so true about Sister Sherry. I know that each one of you here, and many that you don't even know were blessed. And she's the fruit of God's goodness, of his life, and the people. And I have to share and be honest with, and I feel to share this because it's a testimony that when this happened to Sister Sherry, when she became sick, I started to become very angry with the Lord. I was very angry. And I questioned him. I said, why? This woman, she poured her heart out for your people. She just showed nothing but love and kindness. And shortly after that, I went to Lubbock, and Brother Blaine got up to minister. And I always bless my brothers with his word, but that time, in that moment, his word was so anointed, and he had already been going through this for 2-3 years. And God said to me when I heard his word and the anointing on him, you don't know what I'm doing in my people. And that broke that anger, and I was able to ask the Lord to forgive me. And what it showed me was what a true child of God and someone who is truly in a relationship with the Lord. We laid our lives down. He laid his life down. He didn't stop. He didn't quit because this happened to the woman that he loved all his life and adored. But he got on his knees and cried out. This is what God showed me, not what I know, but it just showed me. He got on his knees and cried out and said, nevertheless, Lord, thy will be done. And he became and continues to be an instrument in God's hand. And that is testimony to the life of Christ. That's the strength that I want and that I'm receiving, because he sent these two and others, and they laid the foundation, and we will not be shaken. His word is true. His word does not come back to him void. And I know that's what Sister Cheryl would have me say today. Yes, I hurt. Yes, I'm sorrowful. Yes, he's giving me tears, and I can cry. And I do cry. My California family will testify to that. But I stand up here privileged and honored to testify that God is who he says he is. His word does not come back to him void. Sister Sherry will always and eternally be an instrument in God's hand in my life, and I know in all yours. So thank you for letting me share.
At this time, family's going to have a song, and I'm sure.
What will it be like when you call my name? And that moment when I see you face to face. I'm waiting my whole life to hear you say, when tears are washed away, and every broken thing will finally be made whole. What will it be like when I come into your glory, standing in the presence of love so beautiful? I'm waiting my whole life for that day. I will live my life to hear you say, well done, my good and faithful one. Welcome to the place where you belong. Well done, my beloved child. You have run the race and now you're home. Welcome to the place where you belong. What will it be like when I hear that sound? All of heaven's angels crying out, singing holy, holy, holy are you, Lord. Singing holy, holy, holy are you, Lord. Singing holy, holy, holy are you, Lord. Waiting my whole life for that day. Until then I'll live to hear you say, well done, my good and faithful one. Welcome to the place where you belong. Well done, my beloved child. You have run the race and now you're home. Welcome to the place where you belong. Well done.
Making me go first. There are many words that you could use to describe my mother, and I called her Mother Dear. She was beautiful. It was a beauty that came from the inside and radiated out. She was so kind and generous. Proverbs 31 really could have been written about my mother. She lived knowing that the more love that she gave, the more she had to give. She always had time for a cup of coffee and fellowship. She loved to fellowship. And she shared so many words of wisdom in those moments. Whenever I had a question, I knew my mama would have the answer because she had the Spirit of God within her. She spent more time on her knees than anyone I know. Most of the time when I would go to look for her, I'd go into their bedroom. My mama would be kneeling by the bed, her Bible open, usually a clipboard and a few pens with different colors, praying and studying the Word. And that's how I will always remember my mama. Her desk. Most of all, I know that she prayed for Dad. For us kids. And I'm sure everyone here was mentioned in one of her prayers. Dad, the anointing that God placed on you is a direct result of Mom's prayers. I know she has often told us that when we lived up by Rock Lake, those 2 years, she spent more time praying for Dad. It was a burden that God placed on her heart. And it bore fruit. I'm going to read a few verses from Psalm 31 and describe my mama. Strength and honor are her clothing, and she will rejoice in time to come. She opened her mouth with wisdom, and in her tongue is a law of kindness. She looketh well to the ways of her household, and eateth not the bread of idleness. Her children arise up and call her blessed. Her husband also, and he praiseth her.
We obviously did not tell each other what we were going to say today as siblings. Same scripture verse. Verses. Okay. When I think of my mom, I think of a woman who showed grace, hospitality, unselfishness, and love. You see, I was the problem child. I was always the one with a messy room. I could never organize, even if I tried. Mom would go to my room, and I'm quoting, "You do not have a choice. You'll stay in here until it's clean." End of discussion. She would very seldom have to say the words to us, "Just wait until your father gets home," because she would take care of it, if you know what I mean. She was very nurturing. Even when we would go to school, she would greet us when we got off the bus by the smell of her delicious cookies that she pulled out of the oven. So many memories of her in the kitchen. My love for cooking came from my mom and my aunt. There was nothing like her grouse and fried potatoes and fried apples. No one could make that meal like my mama. I remember many wonderful family memories making Chef Boyardee pizzas for supper. You know what? It tasted like filet mignon to us. And it was because she taught us how to make them. And she put so much love into what she would do. I also credit my mom because of her talent to sing. She had me learn how to play guitar, write songs, and sing from my heart. There was nothing like a jamming session around the fireplaces of the homes that my dad built. Hot chocolate and popcorn, memories that we built together. Anybody that knew me knew that I was horrible at math. And I even think I caused a few gray hairs and some teeth pulling. She tried very diligently to get me a passing grade. And also how to teach me how to do a good book report correctly. I think one of the best things she instilled in me was, you might not always have everything you want, but you can live simply, be provided for, be grateful and thankful for everything. She taught me what love is, and it was through a wonderfully worded letter of welcome she wrote to a young man that would later become the love of my life, my hubby. Mom had a way of knowing things long before the fruit could ever be seen. The scriptures that sum up my mom: Proverbs 31, verse 10 and 25 to 31. Who can find a virtuous wife? For her worth is far more above rubies. Strength and honor are her clothing. She shall rejoice in time to come. She opens her mouth with wisdom. Her tongue is the law of kindness. She watches over the ways of the household, does not eat the bread of idleness. Her children rise up and call her blessed. Her husband also, he praises her. Many daughters have done well, but you excel them all. Charm is deceitful, and beauty is passing. But a woman who fears the Lord, she shall be praised. Give her the fruit of her hands. Let her own works praise her in the gates. I'm very grateful to be her daughter. She was a wonderful mom and grandmother to my children. We could go on all day and say how many lives have changed because she was an example of somebody that lived the words she spoke. She left an enduring legacy of warm, unconditional love on the hearts of those who were blessed to have known her. She was a lady of class and a woman of grace. And I pray my own life reflects the same beautiful attributes reflected in the testimony of her life. I love you always, Mom.
Mom was one of the strongest, most resilient women I've ever known, with a very heart full of compassion. Her ability to listen and fully advise from her heart is what I think of the most. I remember as a child I was very obsessed with my mom's hands. They were just probably the most beautiful motherly hands. So I chose a poem, and I'm going to read it about my mom's hands. They are a picture of tenderness, a portrait of grace, a captured moment of happy bliss as dainty as lace. Their feather softness will caress. They are strong. They're tough enough to clean the mess. They sing a silent song. They are there when you are young or old, forever believing. They create warmth from the cold, never deceiving. They will softly wipe away all your tears you can't live without. They will destroy all of your fears. They will never doubt. You do not always get it or agree. They are hope. When you are blind, they let you see. They let you cope. They are love. They will always understand. They are love. They are your mother's hands. I take comfort in knowing that Mom is always present with us, that she's free from the misery of the last few years and shares in the joy of all of her beautiful grandchildren that carry on that strong core of family that she started. Mom, I want to thank you for all the life, love, guidance, and wisdom you raised me with, and the truly great friendship we shared when I reached adulthood. Your beautiful green eyes and your infectious laughter are in my memory forever. And I can only pray that my sons will be impacted by my hands like I was by hers.
I don't know if going first or being the last girl is easier or harder. If I just had one word that I had to use to describe my mom, it would be strength. She was the strongest woman I know in every possible way, emotionally, spiritually, physically. Nothing was too big for her, nothing was too much, and no one was unnoticed by her. She was a warrior, and I think she could probably move a car if she had to. She was the woman that would give birth to a baby and be cooking dinner that same night. I know because she did when I was born, so I'm told. Gratefully, I think she passed those genetics on to her children. I remember growing up, not a single day of my life went by, my life at home, that she didn't come into my bedroom at night and put her hands on my forehead and just leave them there. They were so cool and calm, and you're right, her mom had the best hands. And she would always say, may your guardian angels hover around you, bring you peace, and keep you safe. And to this day, if I'm ever sick, I just want my mommy's hands. She was beautiful. Beautiful in a way that couldn't be bought from a store. Her beauty was just deep found, and it touched everyone. Everyone that knew her was touched by her. You would walk into a room and her smile could light the city, and every person felt that warmth and was blessed by her. She taught by example how to have humility, how to be strong, gracious, respectful. And she was very excellent at being a mirror to people when they couldn't see their own beauty or strength. There is a hole in our family, and the sadness of missing her physical presence in our lives. But today is a tribute and a celebration to a life beautifully lived. There is a poem that I think sums up pretty well a mother's love, and it really fits my mom. A mother's love is something that no one can explain. It is made of deep devotion and of sacrifice and pain. It is endless and unselfish and enduring come what may, for nothing can destroy it or take that love away. It is patient and forgiving when all others are forsaking, and it never fails or falters, even though the heart is breaking. It believes beyond believing when the world around condemns, and it glows with all the beauty of the rarest, brightest gems. It is far beyond defining, it defies all explanation, and it remains a secret like the mysteries of creation. A many splendored miracle man cannot understand, and another wondrous evidence of God's tender guiding hand. When Garth and I and my dad were going through a lot of my mom's things, this letter was found that she had written me when I graduated from high school, and I wanted to read it. It's worth more than millions of dollars. Some people are left as an inheritance, and I think that It accurately describes what she would say to each of her children. It's a thank you card. And she wrote, "Dearest Janae, there is no way to express how much I love you. From the day you were born, there has always been something very special about you. Always know that you've been such a blessing to me and to your dad. Now it's time for us to really share you with others. Always remember who you are and what you are called to. We will be praying for you and here for you whenever you need us. Always keep God first in your life. We will miss you greatly. Love, Mom and Dad."
I want to thank all of you for coming, and those of you that put the music together, the songs, Bonnie's voice and Auntie Lorraine's and my mom. I wasn't prepared to hear my mom's voice. I didn't know that was going to happen. I could hear Lonnie's bass, all those beautiful voices. I didn't realize how deep I buried the pain of missing Mom's voice until I heard it. It was so clear. It was really nice. So thank you all for that. That was a gift. The irony of none of us siblings sharing with each other what we were going to say, there's definitely some common threads that we carry about our mom. My mom was a mother to so many people beyond the 5 of us that she gave life to. And there was times when we were growing up, we would complain about it. Where are all these other kids coming from? Why do they all have to be there? We were always kind of fighting for her time. But that was part of who she was. Mom had many talents. She was kind of a human calculator. She was phenomenal with math. She had a beautiful mind. She was quick and witty. She missed nothing. You couldn't get away with anything. And trust me, I tried. She somehow knew everything. She just knew and felt so much about everyone around. She was always on top of it. Mom was a teacher, she was an accountant, she was a church secretary, musician, gardener. She was also a fierce disciplinarian. Her vibrant green eyes had a bit of a crimson red halo right around the pupil. And when they got really bright, you got scared. She was very intimidating. A lot of my friends were scared of her with good reason. She was very passionate. She was never afraid to show her emotions, and that's something that she conveyed to all of us. She gave my dad and all of our children a lot of love, and they were the best examples a child growing up could ever really hope to emulate. Dad, you are the personification of in sickness and in health, and till death do us part to that last moment. You're a faithful, loving soulmate and friend, and you have been a phenomenal example of a father and a husband to me, and I love you for that. Mom was a great communicator. She was well-read. She would not stand for any vulgar language anywhere in her purview. She said it was an excuse for poor vocabulary. Many times in my life, I've been the one to mention if there was any language that wasn't appropriate in any context, whether it be the baseball field or the locker room, in homage to Mom. She taught us the value of hard work. There was no room for laziness in Mom's world, period. She ran a tight ship. To this day, my clothes are hung left to right and color-coded. Something my wife appreciates. I only saw her once when I was very, very young, before I was school age, go into the girls' bedroom, take all the dresser drawers out, dump all the clothes on the floor, just because 1 or 2 things were showing in the dresser. Get it right. Never had to happen that way in my room, I can tell you. She loved God and she never shied away from sharing her convictions. She was unyielding and she certainly had no fear of confrontation, something that she ingrained in me, and it served me very well in my life. She was a very, very strong woman. It's already been mentioned. I remember one story as a child. My dad was moving a very heavy cast iron cooking oven. He was on one end and two hired hands on the other, and they couldn't lift the oven. In exasperation, my dad said, "My wife is stronger than both of you." Mom was summoned. She took one corner, there the other, and the job was done. There's a lot of examples like that. Most of all, my mom was love. She had the amazing ability to make you feel like you were the only one, and there were so many of us. She would make you feel like she genuinely loved you more, and there were so many beyond the 5 of us that she was able to make feel that way. I remember at one point when I was probably 5, 6 years old, Mom was in a car accident in the wintertime on the icy road, and she was okay, but I didn't know that as a little boy. I saw the vehicle all smashed up and was very concerned that something was wrong with her. And she spent a lot of time consoling me and making sure that I was okay and understanding that she was okay. And there were so many other examples of that. The fact that she was able to impart so much love to so many people, but really create an individual relationship. She would spend one-on-one time with each and every one of us kids. We would alternate Fridays. She would take us shopping and out to eat and make sure that anything that we thought we needed or wanted, she somehow already knew and she would handle it. It's made me very cognizant as a father to take individual time with each of my children and not be caught up in all the things that life is with kids because the time is so short. She could have done anything in this world. She just had that kind of personality and drive, but she chose to give herself to God and His people and her family. And many of you here today know that. Many of the people that are not here today know that. She was happy. In a world where so many people are striving for happiness, books being read about being happy, and the older you get, you tend to figure out all of these things that you think are going to make you happy and things that really don't. She was happy. She chose her life. She chose her friends. She chose the things that she wanted to do. And that's something that all of us can take as part of her legacy. Her most famous quote that all of us children can remember over and over and over again. Remember who you are. Remember where you came from. And remember what you're called to. All of us, how many times did she tell us? Mom, I will never forget. It's a privilege to be your only son. I love you very much. Rest in peace.
Well, I do remember that every time the kids were going to go someplace or leave, she'd say that every time. Remember who you are and what you're called to. That's a good admonition for all of us, if you've been called by God. So, at this time, I'm just going to close in prayer and ask the Lord's blessing on our lunch together, our fellowship, and then after a while, at 1 o'clock, we're going out to Oak Grove Cemetery to do the burial. Father, we thank you for this time that we can share in the memory of Sherry. We ask you to bless that memory to each one of us. Bless the food we're about to partake of and our fellowship together. In Jesus' name.
Take